drastically. It made me think of a conversation I'd had with Krista Quarles in September 2020, a few months into the global COVID-19 pandemic that, as I write this, is still playing out around the world. Krista had been recently appointed as CEO of the global software company Alludo. She was a client-turned-friend who also happens to be a neighbor of mine in the suburbs of San Francisco. On a scheduled break between Zoom calls, we decided to throw on our sneakers and take a power walk and talk to discuss my concepts for this book. It was a welcome chance to check in with each other in person. At this point, the dramatic shift from office life to working remotely from home was still relatively new. Krista and I started comparing notes about how our professional lives had changed. Suddenly, we had a luxury we'd craved for years: time. As working moms who were no longer spending 2 hours a day commuting in our cars to and from the office, we were able to see our children more and have family dinners together for the first time. And although I was working intensely, bouncing nonstop from meeting to meeting virtually, networking and writing reports from my craft room turned home office, I was getting more work done than ever. It goes without saying that the pandemic resulted in untold personal and economic losses for millions. But some light was emerging from the darkness, and we were just beginning to see it. Krista, I can't imagine ever going back to the old way of working. I am getting a lot more accomplished than when I was sitting at my office desk. Am I crazy to think that this should be the new way forward? Little did I realize then that it would be more than 2 years before I would return to the office. 3,000%, said Krista. The pre-2019 office is a relic. Why would anyone ever want to go back to that artifact of a factory organization? In a digital economy, we can talk to someone face-to-face from anywhere. We know how many deal closures you've made, and none of it is predicated on whether you did it inside an office. Who cares if you're picking your kids up from school at 3 o'clock when you're crushing it? This mindset was a complete change for Krista. Charismatic with an acute intellect, a razor-sharp sense of humor, and endless reserves of energy, she'd ascended to the highest ranks in the male-dominated software industry, and before the pandemic had been attending every function, event, and leadership forum in her industry, flying across the country and around the world to meet customers and colleagues. If you'd asked me in 2019 whether I would ever become an advocate for remote work, I would have absolutely said no. I've got to corner that person in the elevator. I've got to stop people at the coffee machine. Being an in-person leader was part of my special sauce. I loved getting in front of that town hall meeting. I fed off the energy of it all. Long before the lockdowns, many Alludo employees were already working hybrid or remotely in different locations across the world, from Ottawa to Tokyo, to Frankfurt, to Austin and Seattle. But it was an ad hoc approach that left some on the sidelines. The pandemic changed that, establishing a new normal that created the opportunity for a more inclusive work environment that took into account different approaches. The tech industry has historically been a man's world where the most vocal, or perhaps the tallest, get recognized. But Krista began to appreciate the individuals who were quietly getting it done. Do you think the universal remote work situation was empowering to certain personality types who may have been overlooked in the past? I asked her. And to women in particular? The thing about remote meetings with larger groups is that everybody's Zoom box is the same size, Krista observed. It enables you to go around the room, or I should say the screen, and ask people's opinions. It engenders a kind of equality. Everyone's viewpoint gets represented, and it becomes much harder for a few people to dominate. As Krista spoke, it occurred to me that we were in a rare moment in history where we could completely reset the workplace culture in a way that would be more inclusive. We were undergoing the biggest shift in how we work.